taxes, traffic, pollution, mansions, celebrity culture, fake boobs. These are the reasons why we initially moved to California, but things have changed. My sponsor for this week's video is Squarespace. More on them later. For the past 3 years, we've called Los Angeles home. And for the most part, besides 2020, it's been pretty great. It was the pandemic that got us to take a step back and really think about where we saw our future. It's always difficult to move on, to let go, but sometimes that's what you need to do to grow. So I think in order to really understand why we're deciding to leave LA, it helps understanding what drove us to move to LA to begin with. So do you remember those reasons? Like, obviously we met in New York City.
Yeah.
October 2014 in Manhattan. We moved in a year later, and we lived in New York for another year?
No, another almost 2 years. I love the spontaneity that the city encourages. So, like, you know, the bars are always, like, filled with people, bustling cafes, and you're, like, really in the thick of it. So, like, I just remember what our life used to be like in Brooklyn and, like, come home from work on a Wednesday, you know, have so much to talk about and be like, wait, let's just go pop down to our local wine bar on the same block, grab a wine, a bowl of mussels, and talk it over. And it was kind of like no fuss and easy in that sense. But New York is also a very, very difficult city, which compelled us to eventually move.
Yeah, I think there was like multiple reasons for why we initially left New York for LA. I think a big reason for you was New York started to feel like a grind.
Even the littlest things like going to do groceries or doing your laundry every week, I just found such a burdened chore.
Wait, you did laundry?
Asking Matt to do laundry every week was just like, well, you just can do the laundry. But yeah, so it just got to a place where every day I felt really frustrated. Like commuting on the subway was just such a frustrating experience. The energy of the city that was like constantly go, go, go. I found that really like, it didn't affect you. It really affected me. Like I constantly felt like if I wasn't living my best life and having brunch every day and, you know, doing a million things and checking out the latest gallery opening and doing this and doing that. And like, then I was living a sad life, and the pressure of not constantly doing a million things in New York, like the social pressure of that, really started to affect me, where I like all I wanted to do internally was just chill out, but then externally I was feeling this friction of like, well, I need to be doing a million things. There's 100 things happening this weekend that are all supposed to be amazing, and I'm not doing a single one of those things because all I'm doing is sitting on the couch, which is like in New York, it's like forbidden. So it got to this place where I just really desperately craved a guilt-free, like chill social life.
Yeah, and I think that when you think about like a chill life, you tend to think about a place like California and LA. You sad to be leaving?
Yeah.
Excited about new adventures to come?
Change is good. Doesn't matter what anyone tells you.
So that was kind of like the social reasons for why we decided to move to California. And then of course, we also thought if we're settling down, if we're living in the United States, and we want to be able to quickly be with both of our families in Sydney and in New Jersey.
Quickly,
quote unquote, more quickly. I mean, when we're in New York, that's a 23-hour trip to get home to Sydney. And the jet lag from that trip is absolutely brutal.
And it's expensive.
We were like, all right, if we live in California, that's like a 13-hour flight to Sydney. It's a 5 to 6 hour flight back to see my family on the East Coast. This is a nice middle ground for us. And I think maybe what we didn't realize at the time was that actually moving to LA would actually make it more difficult to see either of our families.
It's so funny because like we made that, you know, as you said, a driving reason to move to LA was that we could be in between our two families and we could see, it's so ironic, and then we could see them more. Which if you stop to think about it, and it took us 3 years to realize this, all it did was make us see them less. Because we had moved to a place where neither of our families were. And it was just like this compromise, this middle ground, this island out on its own where we were in the middle of our two families.
At this point, we were going to be married. We were going to have a dog. We were going to be planning to have kids and potentially looking to buy a house. And now none of that has happened. When you look at 2020, a lot was happening to us. There were a lot of things that were completely outside of our control. And all of these things and events are getting pushed off and canceled because of what happened with COVID. But us making the decision, taking control and saying, you know what, like, actually, we don't have to just sit on our hands for the next year or who knows how long. We can actually make a decision that will impact our future in a way that we want it to head. And so, you know, spending more time with family, owning less stuff, being more light and free, like, those aren't easy decisions to make. But in the end, I think it was us regaining control of our lives in a way that we didn't feel like we had.
Just going through the pandemic this year and realizing how much, like, life in California just wasn't meeting our bar, like, just wasn't up to snuff for us with being able to, like, satisfy family time. Like, we're finding it hard to get a flight back to see your family and then having to quarantine before seeing them. And then finding a flight to Australia was, you know, virtually impossible. So it just made us feel like California is, you know, it's so important to have family and friends around you, and California just wasn't that place for us. Yeah.
I think what's important to say, because there's a lot of these videos out there, like why we're leaving California, why we decided to leave Los Angeles, and a lot of the times it's like the taxes are too high, like the government is suppressing my right to live freely. And that wasn't the case for us. Like, if you think about it, the past 3 years have been
pretty pivotal for both of us.
Huge for our lives, both our work and our personal lives.
LA brought a lot of amazing things to both of our lives.
Yeah. That's where I started my YouTube channel. It's where you started your business. So many, I think, things that we now are very grateful for happened in LA. I think in the same way that we miss New York and miss so many things about New York, because, like, you are tied to that place because it holds so many of those important memories and milestones in your life. And so I think that, like, we'll look back on LA and California in a very similar way that we look back on Brooklyn and New York.
Ow! I missed it!
While we may not have a home, I do have an internet home, and it's at mattdiavella.com, and that's thanks to this amazing platform that I use called Squarespace. And they're the sponsor for this week's video. Squarespace is great because they have beautiful templates that are easy to customize with a simple click, drag, and drop. The platform has everything you need to start a blog and to monetize your work, collect donations from your fans, and even create members-only content. Nat, your website's on Squarespace as well.
My website is on Squarespace, and thank God, because I do not have the patience to build shit like websites. So there was
that is actually Squarespace's new slogan. Squarespace, for those who don't have the patience to build shit like websites.
Everything's just been really easy, you know, and I don't have to, like, spend days and days and days and days fiddling around with stuff. It's kind of just like set and forget. It's up there. Barely need to touch it. And
10 out of 10.
So worth.
Would recommend.
So worth the subscription for me. Like,
oh, really?
Really, yeah.
See that?
Yeah.
I'm telling you guys. Head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/mattdiavella to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain.
I've been doing a lot of singing from our quarantine hotel balcony in Sydney. I feel like our neighbors must hate me by now.
Probably.
On Saturday night...
Your neighbors or your roommate?
My roommate. On Saturday night, I had like 7 glasses of wine and just sat out on the balcony and I was singing till midnight. And I was playing this, like, Aussie classics Spotify playlist and was like,
which included
we'll
classics.
Be riding on the horses, yeah, way up in the sky, little darling. And if you fall, I'll pick you up, pick you up.
I forgot that. I thought that was gonna be the one where it keeps.
I'm really proud of
repeating. You. Why, that I know the lyrics?
Yeah.
I know. You know, Aussie Culture 101. Aussie. I got a picnic bar in the closet over there that I've been saving for a rainy day. That's it.
It's true.
Living the dream. Thanks for watching, guys. And we'll see you in another video in the future.
In Sydney.
in Sydney. Yee!
Bye.
Bye. Are you just gonna stay there?
At last,
Wow.
my love has come along.
Yeah, what an influencer. I can't believe you're an influencer.
What do you mean? When? When was I an influencer?
Tackle!
No!